Welcome to the GoOutLiving Attitude, a cancer survivor's journey through health and wellness, helping others search for the tools to bring us a healthier and happier lifestyle. Hi everyone, Jonathan Brandt, GoOutLiving. Today's guest is Kelli Arbogast, who is a nutritional therapy practitioner and a gut health specialist. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you. We've talked before how many gut issues I actually have, so this is exciting for me to kind of get everything out there. But I thought we'd start with kind of your story and how you got into the whole gut health thing.
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, I have my own story. I've definitely had my own journey when it comes to gut health. Um, you could probably honestly say that my journey started when I was born, when I was a baby. My mom had to actually stop eating certain foods. I was so reactive to them. I was very colicky, things like that. We didn't know exactly what the situation was. We didn't know that it was gut health related at the time, but looking back, it makes sense now. And so my experience was growing up, I was always the sick kid. I always had strep throat. I always had ear infections. I always had sinus infections. Lots of antibiotics come with all of those things. And as I got older, more antibiotics, but the infections started to shift. So I started to have issues with UTIs. I had recurrent yeast infections. I had recurrent kidney infections, more antibiotics, more trying to kill and fix the problem. And then it all really came to a head for me when I was in college. I was actually studying exercise physiology and thought maybe I wanted to be a doctor, but I was your typical college student, eating lots of junk food, lots of sugar, lots of alcohol, stressed out about school, staying up too late, all of those things. And it really came to a place that I was out of options and had to figure out what to do. So I actually remember being at the health center on campus where I was at school at the time and talking to my doctor. And she was like, yes, I see you have this problem. I can see your symptoms, but I genuinely don't know what else to do with you. She was like, I have given you every medication I can think of. Like, you eat pretty well at this point. Like, I don't really know what else to tell you. And she was like, I'm really sorry. I think medical world, like the conventional medicine, has failed you, and I don't really know what else to do. And she was like, I genuinely want to help, but I'm out of options. Maybe you want to consider like looking outside of the conventional system. And she was like, I really wish you the best of luck. Keep me posted. So that was kind of my intro to this work of like, okay, I'm doing what you told me to do. It's not working. I don't know what else to do. And she was really sweet. She was like, I've heard whispers of this woman in town who maybe kind of sort of does what you're looking for. Like, I think maybe she could help you. You should probably reach out to her. And so she did connect me with another woman who actually, she turned out to be a nurse practitioner. So she wasn't that far out of the system, but she practiced functional medicine and she did exactly what I needed. She really helped me clean up my diet. She helped me get really clear. We did stool testing. We did food sensitivity testing. She told me exactly what I had and exactly what I needed to do to get rid of it. And it was not an easy journey, but I did what she told me to do and it worked. And I got rid of it. Got rid of all of my symptoms. I got my life back. I was able to finish college and continue my education. So yeah, it was quite the journey, but I'm a better person for it now. I'm glad I came out the other end.
Right, exactly. Well, here's the thing. You learned early on that you felt it.
Yes,
A lot of people ignore it. And a lot of people, I mean, gut health is now becoming a thing.
sure.
But I mean, we really have ignored it for such a long time. Maybe
Mhm.
explain how important gut health actually is.
Oh gosh, yeah, I mean, I think we don't even understand the full extent at this point, right, in the community of how important it is. The gut is really the root of so many different things. We're learning now that most of our neurotransmitters are produced in the gut, so mental health is very closely connected to the gut. We know obviously digestion plays a big role, right? We are what we eat, we are what we can digest and absorb. But we actually make things like B vitamins in the gut that help us with our energy. We do so many different things. And you're right. I think often it can be ignored. Often we don't realize that there's something wrong until it gets really out of hand and it's interfering with our ability to live our lives.
Well, and I think you kind of hinted on it too. If we're not getting the minerals and nutrients we actually need, I mean, it affects every part of your body.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's a part of our bodies that is not impacted by gut health, right? Whether it's absorbing nutrients, minerals, whether it's proper function in any other space. But like you said, nutrient deficiencies, those can show up as all sorts of different things. Just one quick example of this: if something is going on with the lining of your intestine and you're not able to absorb nutrients out of your food, specifically vitamin A, sometimes that turns up as little bumps on the back of your arms, or issues with night blindness, like things like that, that you wouldn't think anything related to the gut, but the gut is where you get those nutrients, where you absorb that out of your food. So makes a huge difference in every part of the body.
Yeah, I mean, it's cardiac, it's neurological, it's literally the most important parts of everything. So let's say you have bloating, let's say you have discomfort. What are the steps? Where do we start?
Yeah, good question. So I believe in a food first approach. So that's kind of my go-to number one is like, let's look at diet. So are you eating a clean, healthy, organic, minimally processed diet, or are you eating things like Doritos and Mountain Dew and junk food? Like that's usually step number one is, are you eating real food? And then step number two is, if you are eating real food, if you're doing the right things, if you're eating protein, vegetables, things like that, but you're still having issues, then we want to look at digestive function. Are things actually functioning properly in the gut? And that can make a really big difference once you have cleaned up the diet.
When do you start doing tests then? I mean, if
Yeah.
okay, we do the food thing and it just is you're still having issues, is that when we're like, "Yeah, we need to go a little bit deeper."
Yeah, so it depends quite a bit. So my clients in my practice, usually when someone reaches out to me and starts working with me, they're to a place that they know something significant is happening. Something is wrong and they really want help. And so I usually start with testing because often, right, like I was saying, I start with testing. Yes, we might do some of the foundational food work while we're waiting for testing to come back, but by the time someone finds me, we're pretty certain there's something going on that we're going to need to address. So we just start with that. And the testing that I like, there's a lot of different kind of testing options out there. I really like to do a stool test, and I like to use the GI map stool test. It's very sensitive technology. It gives us lots of information about the healthy flora we want you to have, but also tells us about digestive function. So some of the things that you're talking about, bloating, can have a lot to do with digestive enzymes. So it actually has a marker on there, elastase 1, that tells us, are you producing enough pancreatic enzyme to digest your food? So I like to start with testing right off the bat.
What Okay, we get the tests, they come back, inflammation, um, we know well, in my case, there's no lining.
Sure.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
um, but okay, inflammation's another big one that we're talking about. Can you
Yeah.
explain real quick what inflammation is and then how you have to reduce it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there are a couple different ways to think about inflammation. Specifically, I'm thinking about like the testing that I use. There are markers on a stool test that we can find. So something like calprotectin is a common marker for inflammation. Sometimes when people are talking about leaky gut or thinking about leaky gut, they might test for something like zonulin. There's also a marker I look at called SIGA, which is more a sense of your gut immune army. So if you're having an inflammatory immune response, that could also be contributing to inflammation. So they're kind of different things that contribute. And then there are different ways that we can manage that. So in my work, there are different levers that we can pull. So another one of the things that we can do that makes a big difference is looking at food sensitivities. So if you're eating foods that are on the surface healthy, right? Quote unquote healthy anti-inflammatory foods. You're eating your vegetables, you're eating your proteins, but you're still having a lot of those inflammatory markers or inflammatory symptoms. We might look at, well, what foods are you specifically reactive to, and doing some food sensitivity testing. And by temporarily avoiding those foods that you are most reactive to, that's a huge lever that we can pull to bring down inflammation. Another thing that I like to do sometimes with my clients is looking at environmental factors. So you might be putting good things in, you might be really clear on what you're reacting to, but you could still have something in your environment around you, whether it's mold or toxins or something else, environmental allergies that are contributing to the inflammation too. So I think inflammation isn't quite as cut and dry as it's this one thing. It tends to be there are multiple contributing factors, and kind of identifying each one and addressing each one can help bring it down collectively.
Okay, you keep going to the doctor. You got lucky, I think. They said, "Hey, there's nothing we can do here." A
Yeah.
lot of times it's just ignored.
Yeah.
When do you seek out a specialist? When do you seek out that
Yeah.
alternative?
That's a really good question. Some of my clients start there. Some people are really clear that they don't want a medication that they're going to have to take for the rest of their lives. They know that there is maybe a food based option or maybe a more kind of holistic approach to this, and they want to start with that. Other people I have worked with, they have gone to the GI, they have gone to other specialists, they've gone to their primary care physician, and they've done all of the things that they were told to do, and they feel like they're out of options, kind of like how I felt. And then they go down this road. But I don't know that there's really a right answer of when you start looking in this direction. I think it can be really personal and individual. Um, in my experience, I think a lot of times kind of skipping the line, like skipping some of those steps and just starting with the functional perspective can be really helpful for people. But I don't think, yeah, you don't have to check off the other boxes if you don't want to.
Well, if you're proactive, it's probably not a bad idea to maybe switch from that general to a functional medicine doctor in some way, or somebody that looks at it from a holistic standpoint, because again, we're really not you mentioned in here, you get the blood tests yearly. They really don't
Mhm.
tell you much.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
So,
That's
I mean, is that fair to say, okay, instead of going to your primary at this point, maybe we start going to somebody on the alternative side and maybe get better answers?
yeah, potentially. And I guess I should say, like, going to your primary care physician, like, there's a lot of value in that. Like, they do a lot of screening for things like cancer, right? Which I know that your life has been touched by that. So there are certain things that, like, yes, absolutely, we don't want to avoid going to the doctor. But yeah, if you want to have more of a proactive approach, more of a preventative approach, then definitely looking at some of those same, excuse me, some of those same tests, even you can look at through a functional range that will give you different information versus a conventional range. So I do think, depending on who you are and your why of doing this work can actually answer that question quite a bit. But yes, I think there's a lot of value in being more preventative rather than waiting until there's a problem and then trying to fix the problem.
Like me.
I mean, like so many of us, sometimes we just don't know
Oh,
until it's a problem, and that's how we learn about this world. So,
well, I mean, we ignore so many symptoms, and then when you're going through something, whether it's cancer or heart disease, or we have to remember that a lot of those medications, there's side effects, and like I found out later, that's why I have all my gut issues. It's the side effects of everything I did, from the chemotherapy to the antibiotics. So that is another reason to try and be a little bit more proactive with it is, okay, I have to start this regimen. I need to look at what it's going to do to my body in general as well.
yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good point that sometimes we either don't know, we don't realize going into something like that, that yes, this thing my doctor is telling me I need to do this, and I probably do need to do it, but also being mindful of the side effects. There are often nutrient deficiencies, other long term consequences that can come from some of those. And that was part of my experience too from taking tons of antibiotics. I definitely ended up with some of those long term consequences from lots of antibiotics. But in the moment, right, we needed to have those things to get through the current infection. So, yeah, it can be really challenging. Of sometimes we just don't know, and science is also evolving. Right, we're learning more information every day, and so it can be challenging to say we did the best that we could at the time with the information that we had. But you're absolutely right. The side effects are often something to contend with.
Well, and don't be scared to look outside the normal. Like me, I waited and waited and waited, and it took me doing a home test to finally
Sure.
get a little bit better answers than I was getting none when it really
Right.
comes down to it.
Right.
So there's options out there is my point.
Yes. Yeah.
From the nutrition side, let's go in that direction.
Yeah.
Are we having a lot of people with issues because of the nutrition? I mean, we know we've done it wrong for a long time. Is
Hmm.
that really the primary cause of a lot of this?
I think so. Yeah. I think, again, I don't think it's quite as cut and dry. There are other factors as far as living in the world that we live in today, right? Things like stress, nervous system dysregulation. But a major piece of this, yes, I think is nutrition and our nutrient density and our sourcing practices. And I don't know if you've heard of kind of the term or the concept of overfed but undernourished. There's a lot of that of like empty calories, right? Like you can go to McDonald's and you can eat these foods and be full of food, right? Quote unquote food, but you're not necessarily nourished. You're not getting the vitamins and the minerals and the micronutrients that you need to be healthy and to function properly. So I definitely believe a lot of the health issues that we're seeing today do come from issues with nutrition and nutrient density of our food.
So you get somebody that comes in and you know they're not eating healthy. How do you get them on? I mean, how do you change that behavior?
Yeah, good question. I think it depends a little bit on who they are. I always like to ask people, like, how would you like this information delivered, right? Like, do you want bite-sized pieces? Do you want big picture? Do you want me to just give you everything at once sort of thing? So, kind of how do they learn best? But often there's an educational component to it. Like, if I give someone a list of things to do and send them on their way, they might not really follow through on that unless they understand why. So, there's a big piece of why are we doing the things that we're doing, or why am I telling you to do this specific thing? But I tend to also encourage people to add before they remove. So I really want to avoid someone feeling restricted or like they're on a diet or like they can't eat what they want to eat and feeling kind of that deprived way. And so we might start by adding vegetables, like increasing water consumption. Like, how do you add something colorful and nutrient dense to your plate? How do you add more protein to your plate? And then naturally, if you are focusing on eating those healthy foods first, the other kind of fillers, space fillers on your plate will come off naturally once we do some of that work to get more protein, more healthy fats, and things like that. So, does that make sense? Does that answer your question of kind of how we
Yeah,
start?
yeah, no, it does. To me, it sounds like education, though,
Yeah.
is our is
Yep.
really the primary goal
Yeah, I think so. And I would
that we.
like to believe that, if we have the education and we have this information, we'll do what's right for us. Like we're all in it for ourselves, right? Like to some extent, we want to be healthy, we want to feel well. So I really do think if people have the information and they know what to do, that they'll do it.
Food pyramid.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, here's why I
Yeah,
bring that up is it's exactly what you say, though. I mean, it's put out there as education.
sure.
Talk about controversy, though.
Yes. Yeah.
Why? And we get into that with almost everything, though, whether it's the Mediterranean diet or
Right.
low carb. I mean, it's all controversial.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be really challenging. And that's something that I hear probably more than anything else when I bring on a new client. One of their main concerns is the conflicting information. Like they just want to know what they should do. And they are trying, they're researching, they're trying to figure it out themselves. And just there's so many different ideas and opinions. And yeah, I completely understand. It can be, it's a very heated situation, very heated topic. And it can be challenging when everybody is telling you to do something different. Yeah.
What's the simple answer then?
I mean, my simple answer is one to find, if you are looking for a practitioner, like find someone that you trust and you align with their values and you can just put your blinders on and listen to them. But my simple answer is like eat the way that we are supposed to be eating, right? Like eat the things that grew out of the ground and looked like that, right? Like I think from a physiological standpoint, we like we are what we eat. There's some truth to that of we use those ingredients, the things that we put into our bodies as building blocks. So on the smallest level, right, we make our neurotransmitters, we make hormones out of the proteins and the fats that we're eating. So going to the source, finding those things in nature, how they naturally occurred, that is my philosophy is like, let's eat the things that are coming to us naturally and maybe steer clear of the like artificially green neon colors full of chemicals and things. I don't know. Maybe you'll find a nutritionist out there who would tell you to eat something highly artificial. I'm not sure, but I'm very much of the school of thought of like, eat some plants, eat some animal protein, eat something that, yeah, grew out of the ground that way. And the more you can avoid the toxins and the chemicals, probably the better.
Common sense.
Yeah.
I hate to
I
say it like
mean,
that,
yeah,
but it really is though. I mean, we
yeah.
know. People do
Mhm.
know. You know, we just ignore
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's an interesting conundrum of, yeah, when we really slow down and think about it, it does feel like common sense, but sometimes people need to be reminded. And sometimes there are more specifics to it too. I think more details, but yeah, I think you're right.
Do you
It
feel
doesn't have
like people are starting to understand though? Because I mean, there's so many of us that
Mhm,
have been affected, like you said, it's not just the nutrition side, but
mhm.
who are going through heart disease, who are going through the cancer, going through so many debilitating conditions right now. Are
Yeah.
we starting to understand it is what we've been putting in our bodies and what we've been around?
Think so. I think there is a shift in awareness. And I think some of that comes from, like you said, like education and redoing food pyramid and things like that. But some of it comes from necessity, right? Like if you are having these health issues, it can be a wake up call for people to want to learn more and to want to do more. So I think collectively, yes, there is a shift, possibly because so many people are struggling with this. Yeah.
Something I saw as well, and again, let's say you're getting on the right track with nutrition.
Mm,
There is supplementation out there that can aid. You put in here though, probiotics is just not the answer every time. It's not just the one thing. I mean,
yeah.
that's what we all hear about lately. I mean, again, another buzzword, probiotics. But
Sure.
what
Yeah.
else is there?
Yeah, definitely. So I love probiotics as much as the next person. I am definitely pro probiotic, but I think there's more nuance to your gut microbiome and digestion than just taking a probiotic. There are different types of probiotics. But with that, often people come to me and they are convinced that they have a bacterial overgrowth, or they're convinced that they have SIBO, which is kind of a buzzword these days. SIBO stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. But often, when I do a stool test for someone, we might find that their bloating and their stomach issues, their gas, their pain, whatever, it's not because they have a bacterial overgrowth. It's not because they have SIBO. It's because they're not producing enough enzymes to break down their food. And so their food is sitting in their gut or their stomach longer than it should. And it's creating all of those symptoms for them. So I have seen more than once, more than a couple of times, someone who swears they have SIBO come back with a negative SIBO test result, and their stool test looks perfectly fine, except for they're not digesting their food. They're not making any pancreatic enzymes. We need to give them HCl, things like that. That if they had gone down this road of trying to kill off bacteria that wasn't an issue, they would have caused more harm than good. So that's what I mean by probiotics are not always the answer. I think also in a similar situation, if someone has SIBO, adding a probiotic is going to really make the situation worse instead of better. So I think there's some kind of specificity that goes into the probiotic talk. And so often people just go to the grocery store and buy a probiotic and start taking it. And I think really that's not always the best idea.
Well, is it fair to say the microbiome is extremely complicated? I mean, it's like you said, it's the enzymes, it's the bacteria, the good bacteria. I mean, there's so much to it.
Sure. Yeah, I think it can become complex. I also think we can overwhelm ourselves and making it more complex than it needs to be just for like normal function, right? To feed your microbiome. We get into, I need to take this supplement and that supplement when really maybe you just need to eat some more vegetables to feed the bacteria in there, right? So, yes, I think it can be complex. And that's one of those things that we're still learning more about the microbiome every single day. Like, we don't know all there is to know. But I also think it doesn't have to be overwhelming, that we can simplify it in our understanding of it as well.
You primarily work with women.
Mhm.
What do you find that they're having more issues than men, or is it just that's the type of client you're getting? And what is their main problem?
Yeah. So I think a piece of this, like potentially women could be having more digestive issues. I don't know that I can like say that definitively. But the reason why I say that is because one, culturally, it seems more socially acceptable for women in our culture to reach out and go to the doctor and ask for help and say, like, there's something wrong. I need to address this. Men, I think, sometimes are taught to, like you said, ignore it, right? Like push it down, just like power through. So I think a piece of that is making men feel more comfortable in asking for help and addressing things before they become life threatening. But I also see from the nervous system component, often my clients tend to be like type A overachievers. They're moms, they have careers, they have businesses, they're trying to do everything, right? Because that's what our society has told them that they need to do. Or maybe they've chosen to do that. But I often see gut issues in that particular type of person, potentially because of the nervous system dysregulation that goes with that. That our digestion is so connected to our nervous system that if we're constantly in this fight or flight, stressed out, go, 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 over functioning, that can pretty easily contribute to some of these overgrowths and imbalances that we see in the digestive system. So, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it definitely does. So on our way out, like I said, I'll post everything also to the blog post, but I saw your call to action and you have a free gut health test on the website. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's my Decode Your Bloat mini course, and it helps you kind of decode your bloating because there are different types of bloating. So, yes, people can go check out my website and can opt into that free resource and really understand a little bit more about the type of bloating they're having and what might be the underlying issue there.
Love it. Like I said, we'll put all the information on the post. Uh, Anything on the way out that you would love people to know? One thing.
The one thing would just be that we love our gut. That we love our gut. That, like, it's so important. I think, like you said, people sometimes ignore it or it's an afterthought. You know, it's kind of there under our clothes and we're not always like front and center. That just a reminder that it really is so important for every single part of your body and proper function everywhere, including your mental health, your ability to enjoy your life and your day to day. I think it's so important. So, just a little reminder to love your gut today.
Literally listen to your gut.
Exactly. You got it.
Kelli Arbogast. I mean, absolute pleasure. Yeah, I mean, the gut health, it's so important right now, and nutrition in general.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
re
Thanks so much for having me.
Kelli, no, I really do appreciate it, and folks, we'll get Kelli back again, in the future, so keep an eye out for that, but until then, find the attitude, keep the attitude, go out living. Bye, everyone.